All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is not some sort of publicity stunt. This is not some kind of a gimmick. I am just running behind. Sorry about that. So, with that being said, we are here today to talk about some of the back history of the song that is being released today. Will be officially released in 1 hour and 33 minutes, well, close to it. The song The Crossroads. And I'm very, very excited to talk about that. Before we get into that, though, let's give a shout out to these awesome individuals here: James Sheets, Chris Knowles, Zay Ryan, VST 404, Mark George, Bop Studios, Mark Bergstaller, Ben Grauer, JV Deviver, Mike Enyo, Glory to Glory to Glory, Heinrich the Guitarist, Audio Surgeon Music, Pirate Beats, Marcity 101, Jurgen B, Silver Road Maine, Wesley John, and Corey Kretzinger are all individuals who have helped to fund the channel, whether it be through Super Chat or if you look over here on the left-hand side, you can see that these are individuals who have signed up for a Patreon membership. And some of them, Chris Knowles, has actually signed up for a Patreon membership and a YouTube membership of $1.99 a month. Thank you so much for that. All right, so you know what time it is. I am so excited to get to this point. This has been quite a journey for those of you who have been following for any number of days, weeks, months. We've got actually some individuals who've been following us for months here in the chat. Chris Knowles, who is the drummer for Crossroads, is in the chat. Big shout out to Chris. Good to have him in here. We also got some familiar faces, which I'm so happy to see. Ben Grauer from Garden Wall Music is in here. Jurgen is in here. Micah's in here. Mob the Gamer, thank you so much, by the way, for your help with the pre-release. I wasn't really sure about how to do this pre-release thing. I mean, kind of figured it was a built-in feature. Well, come to find out, you got to up your game in DistroKid if you're going to do a pre-release. So Mob the Gamer jumped on and helped me, also known as the Minister of Badness. Oh yeah, good coffee. So I do apologize for being a little bit late to the stream. I actually laid down to take a nap because I wasn't feeling good, and then my wife come in there. Thankfully, I've got a good wife who knows my what I was going to do today, and she said, "Hey, you need to get up." So looks like we also got JCQ from Malaysia. Good to have you. Minkai from Kosovo. Wow. Good to have you as well. Mark George is here. Hey, good to have you. All right, so we have quite a few individuals here. I have literally went over to DistroKid just to make sure that everything's fine. Now, this is the service that I use to release my music. And Jason Reeves is here. What's up? Congrats. Jason Reeves was the lead guitarist on this song. So good to have him in here. I think we have some others who are not able to make it. I know Brian Barton said he had a football game with the children, with his boy rather. And then Marcel, he had a recording session going on, I believe. So completely understandable. Don't necessarily have to be here to hear the song. It's going to be out here very soon anyway. So I went over to DistroKid to make sure it is officially been released, at least now, to all of the stores that have the pre-release feature. And here at 3:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it will be released everywhere. That is Amazon, Apple Music, iTunes, Deezer, Spotify, you name it. So if you did not get the Spotify pre-save link, I'll go ahead and give that to you now. And then if you want to go ahead and go over there and get a pre-save on that, you can't wait another, what is it now? Hour and 20 minutes. You can definitely go use this now. And let me make sure I get the right one here. In the chat, let me know if you did use the pre-save link. That would be cool to know. Okay. Make sure I got this. All right. Maybe this show is the best medicine for me right now. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Okay, so here is the pre-save link. If you have not used this link before, basically it takes you to a page where you can go and it will allow you to sort of like put that into your playlist before it's even released. So this is a great way to get your hands on the song before it's even official. With that being said, you can use that link, and then it's not going to let me use it. Looks like Mob the Gamer's already listened to it twice or thrice on Deezer. So good deal. Looks like Micah got the early link. Good deal, good deal. Now let's do what we have set out to do today, though. Let's go ahead and listen to this bad boy together. And this is going to be bittersweet for me. It's going to be sweet in the sense that it's finally done and it's released and whoop. But it's going to be bitter in the sense that it's been such a fun song to work on. And it's going to kind of stink not having that to look forward to now. So I guess we'll have to start working on some more, right? Okay, so let's take a listen now together to the song, The Crossroads.
He's got a golden guitar and $1 million sound. Everywhere that he goes, he's selling out shows, bringing people from all around. And he's got money, and that money's made him proud. He's had so much for so long, forgot what the blues is all about. But the crossroads are calling, time to pay your dues. Well, that sunlight, midnight is coming after you. And the crossroads are calling, time to reap what you sow. Your soul. You've squandered your wealth on things that won't last. You've based all your happiness off things you never had in the past. Your kingdom is falling like a castle in the sand. When those floodwaters rise against your house of lies, tell me, will you be able to stand when the crossroads come calling? Time to pay your dues. Crossroads come calling, devil coming after you. When the crossroads are calling, time to reap what you sow. To gain the world and lose your soul.
That's all I can say. Whew. What sweet release. Not just the song itself, but just getting that out of your system. Now, for many of you who write music that are here in the chat, you know exactly how it feels to have that idea, that intangible idea in your head, get completely molded, shaped, and put into some sort of a tangible form, whether it's an MP3 or a wave or a complete project in this case, and to actually have that released for the world to hear. Now, for one, it's kind of scary at first. You all know exactly what I mean, where you're wanting to release it, and then all of a sudden you have these doubts. Am I good enough? Does this sound good enough? What are they going to say? What are they going to do? The point of this channel, especially here as of late, is to help you to get past that hurdle, to help you to get past that wondering about yourself, whether you're good enough, whether you're able to do things. And there is a point where you do have to realize, okay, I can only do so much with what I know right now. And I'm going to let you know right off the bat that I have never claimed to be any kind of a guru, any kind of a, let's just say I've never put on any airs. I only am where I am today because in my musical journey, just simply because I took the time to develop skills, to hone skills, to never give up. And that's really what this is all about. Don't ever give up on your dreams. This was a dream of mine that I had so many months ago. Now, this is not the first song that I've released by any means, but this is probably the song that I'm the proudest of. I kept telling myself, in fact, it was a New Year's resolution, that this year I was going to reach out and I was going to actually get involved with more musicians, was going to collaborate more, was going to break out of that little box of mine of I'm the only one that can record, release, mix, master, track, do all this. I just want to do it all. Well, what I found out is that by reaching out, getting others to garner for help, that not only was there an awesome community that was formed because of it, but an awesome song came from it. And individuals that caught my vision of the song were able to take that song and to mold it into something that I never thought it would be. And so this is really what this channel is all about. If this is your first time here, awesome. So glad to have you. If you've been around a while, you know what I'm going to say. It's the motto around here. We can dream alone and we can even create alone, but together we can achieve so much more. And this song is just a testament to that. So if you want to stick around just a little bit longer, you have heard the song in its entire form now. But if you want to stick around a little bit longer, I'm going to go ahead and dive now into some of the sort of the behind the scenes stuff that if you just heard this on Spotify or you heard this on iTunes, you would not get access to this kind of information. And basically, if you make music on your own, it may help you in releasing your song to sort of get your head around, what all goes into this. So first and foremost, let's talk a little bit about the process itself, because I've had a lot of questions, individuals asking, how did you do this, especially with COVID going on, everyone being on lockdown. So right out of the gate, there was a lot of files being shared back and forth. There was a lot of emails being shared back and forth. But more importantly, there were a lot of third-party apps that were being used just to communicate. Now, the key thing in all of this has been communication. Obviously, if you have any kind of a communication breakdown in a project this big, things are going to happen. Stuff's going to slip through the cracks. And so the best way that we were able to actually stay in time and in tune with one another, what was going on, what was the next step to take, is we used an app called Flock. I'm going to try to pull that up now so you can see that. Now, I'm not saying that you have to use exactly what we used at all, but what I am saying is it's definitely an avenue that you can go down. So if this is something that, you're thinking like, I would like to be able to collaborate with people, then this is definitely a tool that you can use. So here's what Flock looks like. I'm going to go ahead and shoot to my screen real quick. This is it's basically just like a Google Hangouts or a Slack or let me take myself off there real quick. There we go. And so what you can see here is you got different chats and different channels. This is the Crossroads collab channel. So through this channel here, anybody who's involved with the Crossroads release or anything like that was able to get on here at any time, talk back and forth. We were able to collaborate and just let each other know, hey, this is where I'm at. Encourage one another, because obviously it gets very daunting. But with that being said, that's definitely a good way to stay in touch and in communication. So that was definitely one of the apps that we used. And then obviously we used, Facebook Messenger and let's see, I think there was some texting involved even. Yeah, I mean, there were so many different avenues of everyone just staying in touch, but Flock was one of the ways that we were able to just sort of condense all that to one area so everybody stays on the same page. So, Andrea Joy, good to have you. Ironweed Studios, Mo Kerr is in here. Good Jill. Chibi Wonder, nice. Good deal. And for those of you that are new, I'm just going to give this for everyone here who is new. Big round of applause. Thank you so much for hopping on the stream today. Mob the Gamer says he wants to hear the vocals. We will definitely get into some of that here in just a minute. I'm going to actually go through here track by track and show you what it sounds like in its soloed form, how it fits in with the mix, and even kind of show you some of the backstage sort of back history of, if you want to call it that, of how we're getting it to set into the mix. In fact, I think what you're going to find is that there's a lot of elements that you don't necessarily notice in the mix the first time that you hear it, but if you were to take them out, you'd be like, something's missing. And that's one of the things that I always talk about on this channel too, about production, music production. The more that you do this, the more that you get into music production, the more that you find out that subtlety is key. You can grab a plug-in and you can crank up them things and make it sound awesome. But usually when you crank up things all over the place, then that's when things start to get muddy. That's whenever you take it to the car and it falls apart. All kinds of things. So Nerd is here. Good to have you, buddy. Just in case you didn't get the round of applause. So subtlety is definitely key. It's one of those things that it's hard to get used to doing that. But it's mandatory for great mixes. You got to have subtlety. The other thing about this is you got to have grit and determination, and you got to keep going when it doesn't seem like you're getting anywhere. There's times when, you're working through songs like this, and, oh, thank you, Mark. He's giving me a shameless plug here. I appreciate that. But this grit and this determination that I'm talking about, it has to come from a place where sometimes you have to just set yourself down and just say, ask yourself, why am I really doing this? Is this for me only, or is this for others only, or is there a deeper purpose to this? And all of us sort of have this dark night of the soul moment. I think if you're a musician, you're more prone to it than anybody. In fact, I released a podcast not too long ago called Musicians and Depression. And I was talking about this sort of side of things that no one ever wants to talk about. But as a musician, as creatives, even in general, we're more prone to fits of depression and melancholy and this roller coaster like attitudes. And so it's harder for us sometimes to get things completed because we get to a halfway point. We're already defeated. We can't get completed because we're defeated. And so the easiest way to get over that is to just sort of close your eyes, take a step back and be like, okay, I'm not doing this for naught. There's a purpose in what I'm doing. And once you find that purpose and why you're doing what you're doing, it's going to be so much easier to trudge through those low times. So with this song, I guess let's go ahead and start off with some of the back history of the song itself. Like, where did the song come from? What's the whole idea behind this theme? So, oh, thank you so much. Got individuals in here still blowing the chat up. Good deal. So when it comes to the song itself. So I was watching a interview with John Mayer. This is where it all sort of started, where it all stemmed from. So we're going to go back to square one. John Mayer was talking about his, what was it? I think it was two Dumble amps, a rack full of vintage guitars, just on and on and on. He kept going and kept going. I was like, good night. By the time that he got through his long list of all of the gear that he literally had $1 million wrapped up in this. And so at the beginning of the song, you hear this very familiar phrase. He's got a golden guitar with $1 million sound. So the golden guitar was because the reason why I was watching the interview is because he had just released his new Silver Sky, which happened to be gold. Come to find out, the paint job on it is one of those where it's like, it's gold if you're looking at it this way, but you turn it sideways, it turns silver, which is kind of cool. But it's called the Silver Sky, but I seen it as gold, just the camera angle. And so he's got a golden guitar with $1 million sound is the very first words that are uttered from this song. And the first thing that hit me whenever I was watching all that is, like with anybody, you feel that inadequacy begin to kick in. Well, no wonder he's got that gig. No wonder he's making that much money. No wonder if I had all that gear, I would sound good too, but that's actually not the case. The fact of the matter is that you could give John Mayer a Squier Strat with a, small Marshall amp, or even not even a Marshall. You can give him a Behringer amp for that matter. And, give him the basest of all materials to work with. And John Mayer is still going to sound like John Mayer because of the work that he's put in ahead of time. Sort of a side note there. So he's got a golden guitar with $1 million sound. And then it goes on to say, hold on here. I'm getting a message that I wasn't. Well, Lord, I hope you all can hear me. You all can hear me, right? Well, you have to. You've been able to talk back and forth. Okay. Oh, okay. I got you now. It was on their end. Okay. Individual said he couldn't hear me, but it was on their end. Okay. So he's got a golden guitar with $1 million sound. The next lines are, everywhere that he goes, he's selling out shows, bringing people from all around. So it's just sort of solidifying in that first verse the fact that this individual, whoever it's about, is rich, they're wealthy, they're famous. And then the next portion of that, verse 1, I guess you call it verse 1, part B, is he's got money, and that money has made him proud. Now here's the thing where it starts to turn this thing on its side, because if you remember, if you've watched the previous videos before this release, you also know that a lot of this has been based off of the blues mystique, that legend that was sort of, didn't necessarily start with Robert Johnson, but it was really sort of formalized with Robert Johnson in the fact that he sold his soul to become rich and famous and a great guitar player. And so, but at the end of his life, he was in total regret. And so there's a lot of debate on whether he did this or not, or it's just, we're not going to get too much into that. But what we are going to say is how it ties in with the song is that this next portion, he's got money, and that money's made him proud. He's had so much for so long, forgot what the blues is all about. Now, this is what I've seen on John Mayer, because if any of you have ever watched any John Mayer interviews pre his breakdown moment, he was very, very egotistical. And when he first came out, it was very, very blues-centric. And then it kind of started drifting towards this pop sound because pop is where the money's at. And so as he began to drift towards that more pop sound, he started to drift away from who he actually was. And the more wealth and the more fame that was piled upon him, you could tell he started to really forget what the blues was all about. And this is just synonymous, not just with John Mayer. I know I'm kind of picking on him, but he's the one that kind of inspired this. But the thing with not just him, but many people is once you get to the top and you're making that much money and you have that much fame and the world is at your fingertips, you begin to look around, at least most people do, and they're empty inside. And so I don't think it's necessarily, this is going to, just spoiler alert, the next few minutes is going to be personal opinion. Not everybody thinks the way that I do about this, but there's your spoiler alert nonetheless. So I have let me just say it this way. So I have watched a lot of interviews with famous people, mainly musicians, just trying to figure out what they're using, how they did something, how did they get that sound in a recording? How did they, yada, yada, yada. As an audio nerd, you find yourself researching things that most people normally would not. So, it's one of those things where I went down that rabbit hole, but the underlying theme, and like I said, this is personal opinion here, is that this song, The Crossroads, has been regurgitated, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's been covered and redone in so many different ways, that I was almost like, there's got to be some kind of a theme. There's some kind of something that they're trying to say here. And when you begin to go back and you keep going back, and then you find out this history, Robert Johnson being a horrible guitar player, he went into a bar and they kept throwing him out, telling him, do not play that music, you're horrible. And then you come to find out that, this mystique that's built around it about him selling his soul, and audio nerd selling his soul and getting to a place in his life where he came back to that same bar, and now everyone's within a year's time, he's like way up here all of a sudden. It's like, what happened? And then you hear other stories about individuals who really were nobody. They didn't have anything. Nobody knew who they were. And then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, guess what happens? They become rich, famous, powerful. They've got money coming out the wazoo. I remember watching a interview with a man by the name of Anton LaVey, who is the founder of the Church of Satan in Hollywood, California. And he said in this interview, I can't remember who, I think it might have been Barbara Walters, but she said, how do you know so many people in Hollywood and in the music industry? And he literally said, if they want to be rich and famous, they come to me first. Because people are not going out and buying the albums of a person. They're worshiping these idols made of men. They're worshiping the spirits that are carrying them. So the more that you begin to dive back to this, the more that you start to see that this is really this whole Crossroads theme that keeps coming up. There's no accident to this. It's almost as if those that are pushing this song forward are telling people, look, I am where I am because I sold my soul to rock and roll. Now, whether that is, and I had a poll here on YouTube the other day, whether that is a metaphorical thing, whether it's a real thing, like a sign in blood pact. If you ever just get a chance, just Google the music industry selling your soul for rock and roll. You will be blown away with how many people have come right out and said, yeah, I mean, Katy Perry, Blues Traveler, the band Tool, so many people. I could just name for days that are in interviews that are literally telling people, yeah, I sold my soul to get to where I'm at. And so the next portion of this song, after I've tied out all that in, after it says he's got money and that money's made him proud, he's had so much for so long, he forgot what the blues is all about. The next part of that says, but the crossroads is calling. It's time to pay your dues. Now, all of us, we're going to have to pay our dues at one point in time. We are going to have to face the Grim Reaper. And then the next portion of that says that sunlight at midnight is coming after you. Yeah, the crossroads are calling, time to reap what you've sown. And here's the main message that I want to get out with my song. This is how I'm taking this whole Crossroads theme and flipping it on its side. But what would it profit to gain the whole world and lose your soul? Now, every single person that I have seen interviewed, like I said, they have all this wealth and all this fame. They've got the world at their fingertips. But at what price? And 90% of them, when the cameras aren't rolling, when it's just them by themselves, or sometimes even when the cameras are rolling, they just look so depressed. And so the moral of the story is, you have dreams, you have aspirations, you have things that you want to do in life, but don't sell out who you are, what you believe in, what you stand for, just to get an extra dollar or two in your pocket. Because at the end of the day, it's not worth it. That's really the whole premise of this song. So the next portion of this, which is verse 2, comes in, and it says, you've squandered your wealth on things that won't last. You've based all your happiness off things you never had in the past. So let's think about that for a minute. And this is really where you can see a lot of big names in the industry. They have all this wealth and fame. And then you go back about 10 years later, they're broke. They're eating out of trash cans. They're working as, a grill boy or a cook, or not that those jobs are bad, but they're definitely not from where they were to there. So they squandered their wealth, and they've normally squandered those things on things that won't last, whether it be drugs, parties, new cars and houses and land and all this stuff that it's going to burn away. And the main thing is they base all of their happiness off things that they didn't have in the past. So they're happy now because they never could afford those things. But just like the next verse says, your kingdom is fallen like a castle in the sand. And that's all they're literally doing, is just building castles in the sand. Because when the floodwaters rise against their house of lies, tell me, will you be able to stand? So then it goes back into the chorus, while the crossroads are calling, it's time to pay your dues. That sunlight at midnight is coming after you. The crossroads are calling, time to reap what you've sown. What would it profit to gain the world and lose your soul? Now on this one, I actually really bring it down to the brass tacks, where the rubber meets the road, because I change up the chorus in this one just a tad bit. And it says, while the crossroads are calling, it's time to pay your dues. That while the crossroads are calling, the devil's coming after you. So now I don't know what your religious preferences are. I don't know what your background is or anything like that. I'm not trying to get preachy. I'm just simply saying, as a Christian who has read the Bible, I place my life against that standard. The Bible tells us that the love of money is the root of all evil, not money itself. A lot of people get that wrong. They say money is the root of all evil. That's not what the Bible says. The Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. You can have money, and you can have lots of it, and still be a good person, and still be exactly what God designed you to be. But if you have the love of money to where you are willing to sell your soul or to do things that are not even who you are to get it, now you're in a bad place. And so this song is about those individuals that have crossed that line. And so to bring closure to that Delta blues folklore of Robert Johnson and Paganini and all of these other individuals who, Faust, who sold their souls for wealth and fame, and at the end of their lives were destitute, were demoralized, were weakened. This song is really a cry to bring that back around and to show people, the crossroads may be calling, but at the end of those crossroads may not always be exactly what you're wanting. And then it closes out with a long, droning, lose your soul, and then we go back into the crossroads are calling. Now, a lot of people have asked me about this. Sunlight at midnight is coming after you. They've asked me, what does that line mean? So, yet again, we're talking big time Hollywood here. We're talking stuff that is not really well known, but I'm going to get into it. And I grew up in a household where my dad was really big on conspiracy theories, and so I've heard a lot of stuff that most people have not heard. But one thing that I heard that actually rang true, I found out, was there was something to it. Now, the Sunlight at Midnight is a ceremony that happens during the season where it is actually darker for more days in that particular hemisphere. But there's also another ceremony that takes place where if you are wealthy and you can pay for it, you can actually pay for an overnight stay at one of the Great Pyramids. And it is said, as folklore or urban legend has said, that if you stay overnight at one of these places, that you can actually pay to go into the inner chamber of where King Tut himself slept. And while you're there, they close the door on you, and exactly at midnight during a harvest moon, that the tomb will light up in a brilliant bright light, and you will get an interview with Satan himself, where you can ask him questions and you can ask him to grant you one wish in exchange for your soul. So whether it's true or not, I don't know, but it definitely fits in with the whole theme of the song. So I just kind of threw it in there. I thought, well, this will be another little something to tickle people's brains. And if you ever get a chance to research that, don't. Not just kidding. All right, so let's dive in now to the song. We've talked about where it came from, which if you've been following the channel here lately, you know that it really stemmed out of this whole Faustian idea of selling your soul to gain something. And then specifically while I was watching John Mayer in this interview, it just turned, and I thought, man, I got this idea in me. I want to get it out. So that's where the lyrics came from. That's where the whole thought process came out of. And then I had to take that thought process and make it into a tangible form of something. So that's whenever I began to write the lyrics down. After the lyrics were wrote down, I literally started with an acoustic guitar. So that's what we're going to look at first here in the song, is the acoustic guitar. And those tracks are found right here. So this is literally what we started out with, was this right here. And that's just a Alvarez guitar there that's mic'd up about, I think it was mic'd up about 12 inches away from where the guitar's neck meets the body. And I used the one microphone to record all of my parts on this song. It was the Tech Zone Audio Stellar X3. An awesome, awesome microphone. Highly recommend it. $199, you're not going to find a better microphone in that price point. And it comes with a flight case. I have a video on my channel where I do a full in-depth review. And I even have a video on my channel where I'm showing the backstory, even farther back, where I'm recording these acoustic guitar tracks with that. And man, it just shines on everything. It really does. And it takes well to EQs. There's a lot of those where they sound good until you start to EQ them, and then they get brittle and they fall apart. And so this microphone definitely does not do that. So literally it started with the lyrics wrote down on paper and an acoustic guitar. And from there, I sort of started fleshing out some things. I got Chris Knowles involved. I got Brian Barton involved. And at this time I got Marcel Walden involved. So they all three sort of started picking their brains about it and said, okay, Chris took it and said, well, I told him, I said, I don't like to play to click tracks. I really like to play to live drums. And this is sort of the direction that I'm wanting to go. I'd like to have it, verse A, verse B, chorus, verse C, verse D, chorus, break or bridge, and then outro chorus, and be done. And he said, okay. So I sent him literally a YouTube video that it was like a private YouTube video, unlisted YouTube video that all of us had a link to. We could go and watch. Just me playing the guitar real quick, showing them where the chord changes were, what the chords were, what the tempo that I was looking for. And then Chris literally took that, molded it into this sort of defined timeline. And then that gave me the ability to then take the guitar and say, okay, this is This is how I want this to happen. And then I could just take his files, chop up things, move things around and say, okay, well, here's what I want the finished drum. This is how I want it to flow. Now you can get creative with it. And so he did. So we moved on from there to the drums. So I'm going to solo the drums now. These drums sound amazing, by the way. Nice. You know, Chris just did an awesome job of bringing out that feel of the song too. It's got the swing and the groove that I was really hearing in my head. So next thing we went to is Marcel jumped on. I believe he was the next in line, and he came up with about 1,000 parts. Kid is crazy, crazy talented. And so he came up with this organ part here. He came up with a synth part. He's got a riser part that he created, and he also did some of these background vocals. So this is his contribution here. Nice. Now, as you can hear, I have a ton of saturation on that thing. That's how I was able to get it to cut through the mix and be heard without overpowering everything else. Okay, and here comes the synth. Now see, this is what I'm talking about. This is kind of cool because these are elements that you don't normally pick up on immediately while the song is going. And of course, this right here is one of my favorite parts. Nice little echo. Got a lead out there. Little sound effect there. He also did some tambourines. Nice. So we also did some tambourines, as you can hear here. And here's a little bit of percussion. Nice, nice, nice. He also threw in these chimes, which I was happy to hear because these are real. Awesome. Now, the other thing that he added to this that I think really helps to sell the song is he added a vibroslap. This is one of my favorite parts of this. When we first get into the song and you hear this, I got it panned from left to right. Nice. It really just helps to kind of set that song off right from the offset. So those were his parts. So we've heard a lot of Marcel's parts. Now, as you can see, he submitted a ton of stuff to this project, of which case I was very, very impressed. He's just such a talented young man. So then after that, we got Brian Barton on board, and he said, okay, now that you guys have some drums and you have a good basis to build this off of, I'm going to lay down a bass line. And his bass was absolutely amazing. My computer's saying, no, too much information. Nice. And yet again, this is another one of those where soloed by itself, it doesn't sound like it should sound. But after I, completely saturated the snot out of this thing, it just cut through the mix just right, and it just helps to add to those harmonics that need to be filling up that area of the mix. So the thing with bass guitar is if you have trouble with your low end, the thing with low end is you can cut more than what you think you can cut off of the low end. And by saturating it, you can add it back in, because now you're not adding in the low end, you're adding in the fundamentals, which then tricks your ears into thinking that you're hearing the low end. It's kind of crazy, but it works. So then after that was done, I was like, you know what? This really needs some rockin' guitars on the sides instead of just sticking with this acoustic theme, because now it's getting rockier. And so you can see how as the song began to keep progressing, so did the ideas, the thought process behind it. And so it started out as almost an acoustically driven song. And then after Marcel throws his parts in and I'm hearing this bass guitar, I'm like, man, this is getting rocky. This is getting nice. So that's whenever I threw in these electrics here. Now on the left, we have, this is my Squier Classic Vibe thin line Telly, and then on the right is my Fender Strat. And by breaking up the two different instruments, it helps to add that dimension, that depth, and make them sound wider. Nice. So that's that. Hey, Chris, you have a good time at that wedding, buddy. And thank you so much for your help again. Be careful out there. So then after those were added, Marcel comes back again and he says, hey, I think I'm going to add some background vocals to that. And I was like, well, all right, well, go for it. So then he throws in these background vocals. And this is one of the moments where it really helped to sell the song itself. Now, on top of that, he said, I've also got some guitar that I'd like to add. And I was like, oh, okay. I wasn't really hearing any more guitar, but what do you got? So he threw in this Tremolo Guitar. Check this out.
The blues is all about, but the crossroads are calling. Time to pay your dues. Well, that sunlight at midnight is coming after you.
Very cool. So it was one of those things where it really just started to come together. Now, after he did that and all that I was like, man. So I literally sat down with my guitar and just started noodling over the top of these other guitar tracks. And I recorded it without any intention of even saving it or using it. And then it ended up becoming an integral part of the song itself, where I just let it play throughout the entirety of the song. And so it sounded something like this. This is my lead guitar. This was recorded with the Strat. Okay. So then after that got added, it was like, man, this thing is really, it's getting huge. It got to the lead part of this, and I was like, man, I don't want to just, I've already been doing a lead throughout this whole thing. I'd like someone else to be able to come in here and just completely throw off so it doesn't sound like the same style even. Well, luckily, I happen to work with an individual who used to play as a session guitarist in Nashville, and I approached him, and he gladly was like, yeah, absolutely, I'll put a solo on it. And this is where Jason Reeves comes in, and he lays down a solo on top of this. I'm gonna solo the solo so you can hear the solo. Just super nice. And then at this point, I was like, I gotta stop. Literally, I was like, if I keep adding to this, it's just gonna keep going. And at this point, I was literally already contemplating adding in female background vocalists for the bridge to really just sell that, almost have that, Eric Clapton sound, where it was just lose your soul, lose your soul. I was going to have it, but I told myself, okay, stop. You're just going to just stop. And I'm glad that I did, because I think it got to a place where it came together. And so then last but not least, I went back now after all this was done, removed the original vocals that I laid down, which were my scratch vocals. And I actually sang the vocals that you hear now in the release. And I'm going to bare everything and actually solo these.
He's got a golden guitar,
and this was recorded with the Tech
and
Zone
$1
audio.
million sound. Everywhere that he goes, he's selling out shows, bringing people from all around. And he's got money, and that money's made him proud. He's had so much for so long, forgot what the blues is all about.
All right, so then it all came together as the Crossroads, as you have heard. So is there any questions, like specific questions, on any of the elements that you've heard? Because it would take a long time to go through each one of these elements and tell you what I did to it, how I got it to set where it would set. But what I am going to do is, for those of you that are here in the chat, you're going to be the first to know. Within the next couple of weeks, after we do our listen together of the February song contest, I'm going to be offering up the multi-tracks to this song as a mix contest. So for those of you who are in the chat who want to take this song and see if you can mix it, or even do a remix of it, I'm going to be delivering those multi-tracks to individuals who are willing to do so. And then whoever wins the mix contest, which everybody who takes part, you're going to be able to put that on your portfolio. All you'll have to do is just email me and let me know that you plan on using it, on releasing it for your portfolio, and then I can whitelist it and make sure that it doesn't get any copyright strikes or anything crazy like that. But then whoever wins the mix contest or the remix contest, whatever it is, they're going to get some cool prizes. And I'm going to have them here on the show to talk about the song itself, what was their approach and all of that. So that's coming up. I think that's going to be a really fun way to sort of close this whole thing out, and also get some multi-tracks in your guys' hands to make sure that you're able to start building your chops as well. Very cool. Now, along those same lines, awesome. I see some questions coming in about the mix now. I will definitely get to those. Along those same lines, I recently just did a video with Warren Hewitt, and it's called 5 Reasons Why I Love Cakewalk by BandLab. If you have not watched that video, go and check that video out. It was actually more than just 5 Reasons Why I Love Cakewalk by BandLab. It was also the kickoff introductory video of the Ultimate Cakewalk by BandLab tutorial course that is now featured on the ProMix Academy. Warren very graciously decided, after much deliberation back and forth, he said, I have all kinds of courses on Pro Tools. I've got courses on anything that you can think of, but I don't have a course on Cakewalk. Would you be willing to do that? To which case I gladly jumped on it and said, absolutely. We had some great talks off camera. Warren is just such an awesome individual. I cannot tell you guys just how awesome he is. I mean, you guys know this. If you follow his channel, you watch his stuff, you know how awesome Warren is. But even off of camera, when the camera's not rolling, Warren is still Warren. So he is such an awesome guy. And so I put this course together. This has been earlier last year, and delivered it to him on October. He had so many things that was going on that we just now got to the point where it's actually officially released. So with that being said, if you would like to get your hands on the Cakewalk by BandLab tutorial course, this is the ultimate tutorial course. You can get that at this link here. If there are any other courses there, while you're there, there's tons of free, not free courses, but there's tons of, what am I looking? I was looking for free ranging, but that's not the word I'm looking for. Basically, there's a plethora. I'll just use that word. There's a plethora of topics. So if you're not a blues player, maybe you like synth music, there's something there for you. If you're into metal, there's something there for you. If you're just a vocalist, there is something there for you. So definitely go and check it out. I think you'll definitely get some value out of that, and they're very affordable too. That's the awesome thing. And once you buy them, they're yours for life. There's no sneaky monthly plans or nothing crazy like that. So, but if you'd like to go and check that course out, it's it's 10 modules, with the 10th module being 10 modules in and of itself. So a total of 20 modules, and that is 6 hours long. Seems like a lot, I know, but it takes you from everything from installing Cakewalk all the way to like all the nuts and bolts of how to use it. It even gives you multi-tracks. You mix a song along with me, you master that song along with me, and then you can then release that song and add it to your portfolio as well. And that one's already been whitelisted, so you don't have to worry about copyrights, infringements, or none of that. But if you want to go and check that out, I would greatly appreciate it. It would really help the channel out, as well as give you more multi-tracks to build your chops up, and also get you up and going with Cakewalk, which is a free DAW. So whatever you saved on the DAW, you can put towards the course to get up and running with the DAW very fast. Like I said, I'm not a guru, but I know my way around Cakewalk. And if you need any help, I'm always here. We go live once a week. I have tutorials on the channel. Like, I think we're up to 37 in the Cakewalk by BandLab tutorial playlist here on YouTube. You can go and watch those at any time too. Those are free. So now let's dive into some of these questions that we're rolling in. Mob the Gamer, he says, could you please show us what you did to the vocals to make them cut through the track? Absolutely. So I treat my vocals like an instrument. Your vocals, obviously, they have to cut through the track. In most genres, this one included, they need to set on top of the track, but you don't want them to set so on top of the track that all you hear is vocals, or that they overpower or dominate the track. So how do you combat that? So there's a couple of ways that you can do this. The way that I do it, now my way is not going to be, it's not my way or the highway. There's millions of ways that you can do this. Find what works for you, but this is what works for me. Okay? So in order for me to get my vocals to cut through this densely populated mix with a ton of stuff going on, was first and foremost, I have at the very top of the chain the VX64 vocal strip, which was a stock plugin that came with Cakewalk by BandLab back whenever it was Cakewalk Sonar. You can still get access to this plugin if you're a BandLab user, Cakewalk by BandLab user, just by simply going into the Preferences menu, and then where you have your VST settings. When you do a scan here, you can, at the very bottom of that, I'll show you what I'm talking about here. If you open up your plugin manager, looks like this. At the very bottom, you can go to this little check mark here that says Show Excluded. If you tick that, it'll show you the excluded plugins that are included with Cakewalk by BandLab. Now, they exclude those because there's not a lot of support for them, and some of them with the earlier builds were acting kind of wonky, so they excluded them just so that people wouldn't get hung up on that and think, well, this DAW is junk. They just hadn't worked out the bugs yet. Now, I believe, honestly, the bugs have been worked out. I've had no problems with this plugin whatsoever. So if you bring it out of your excluded folder and use it, it's there. So the VX64 Vocal Strip is an amazing, amazing plugin. It does everything you need for vocals in one place. You start out with a de-esser on this portion of it, as you can see here. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. And by the way, I think that we got a new one in the chat here. Thank you so much for showing up. I would try to pronounce your name, but I'm pretty sure I would mispronounce it. So I'm going to call you Masi. But the cool thing is, at the very beginning of this, it starts out with some saturation. It moves on then to a de-esser. Just under that, you see a doubler. There is a compander section. This is cool because it's an expander and a compressor on the same strip. So this knob controls the expansion. This one controls the compression. Expansion literally just turns the volume of the track down when nothing is happening. Audio Sound Doctor. He asked me if I have any dropouts while working with Cakewalk. Occasionally, yes, especially when you're opening up another program while Cakewalk is running. The autosave feature, though, of Cakewalk, almost always, I don't think I've had a project lost or anything lost off of a project because it's always autosaving. So even if it does crash, you can just simply go back into your recent projects folder and pull up the one that was just, it'll say autosave, and it's the same thing you were just working on maybe like 30 seconds prior. But back to this here. So the expander will turn down those quiet parts while you're not singing and take care of some of that room noise that you might have. Then the compression section obviously is a compressor. The attack is set for both, so you have to be careful with that. Just below that is a delay option there. And then over here is a tube equalizer section. So it's an equalizer, but it's a tube equalizer. So if you boost some low end, it is going to get max for English people. Nice. If you boost the low end and you turn this on, you can see it's disabled here, but if you turn it on, it'll work just like a tube, whereas if you begin to oversaturate it, it'll add those tube harmonics, which is very cool. And then you get to this section right here, and you notice here's sort of a visual representation of what's going on, and here's your routing. So right now I have my de-esser first, but I can move it anywhere in this chain. I could even set it at the very end. I always de-ess it first just to go ahead and take care of those sibilants at the beginning. Yet again, personal preference, totally up to you. And then here's saturation on the way out. As you can see, I do have saturation out, and I do have saturation in. A very mild amount, 10% in and 10% out. And that is probably, I know Ironweed Studios, whenever he did his mix review, he said, I love the saturation on the vocals. That right there is predominantly where the biggest part of it is. And as you can see, yet again, it's very subtle. It's not overdone. And then after that, I have another de-esser. This is a Blue Tubes de-esser from Nomad Factory. This used to be included as well with Cakewalk by BandLab whenever it was Cakewalk Sonar. These are not included now. So if you have the original install files, though, from the old like Sonar Platinum installation files, they're still online. If you don't have access to them on your computer, you can still go and download them. You should get access to these again. All you have to do is completely remove your Cakewalk installation, not your files, just your program. Completely remove the BandLab Assistant, then install Sonar Platinum or whichever version of Sonar that you had, and then go back and install the BandLab Assistant and Cakewalk, and all of it will play well together. You'll have access to all of those things again. So then after another round of de-essing, just to take care of some more of those probably oversaturated S's, then I move on to this Cakewalk CA2A. And this is literally just a limiter that's set to the limiter. It's a limiter and a compressor, but I have it set to limit things. And this is literally just keeping that vocal up front at all times. It's helping me to get past having to automate the vocal everywhere I go. As you can see, I do still have automation on the vocals, but it's not like crazy amounts of automation. It's mainly just in the choruses, I'm bringing it up, and here in the bridge, I'm bringing it down farther. And then I'm automating these delays. That's what the purple line here is. All right, now that's one thing, but in order for it to get to where it's seated into the mix, it's not overpowering the mix, and it's also filling up the stereo field, I've actually got it bust out to reverb short room, a reverb long haul, 2 of those. So I'm sending some of the reverb long haul to the right, some to the left, and then the short room is going straight up the center. That reverb is what is pushing it either back or in, up. I'm either pushing it back or bringing it up front. So once you find that sweet spot, you just kind of, and the best way to know when you found the sweet spot is much like the video that I released not too long ago, is by using reference tracks. That will kind of help you readjust your ears to, okay, this is where it needs to set in the mix. So I hope that answered your question, Mob the Gamer. I know that was kind of in depth. Maybe it helped some individuals though. So I've answered the audio dropouts question. The vocal effects chain, good deal. Answered Jurgen's question there. Mark George says, did you use the Faturator on the bass? If so, can you show us the setting for that, please? Absolutely. So yes, I did. Now the Faturator, I just love the name of that. The Faturator is this doesn't have to be this particular plugin, by the way. You can use any plugin that essentially does this. It's essentially just a saturation plugin, but it's more. It's saturation and it's also a fuzz, and it has this color mix, and it allows you to mix it in too, which is absolutely amazing. I don't touch this stereo turbo thing, but oh yeah, thank you, Mob. I'm glad that you reminded me of that too. So, but literally, I'll let you listen to this with and without it. So I'm going to go ahead and bypass this now. Take a listen to the bass without it. Sounds like a really good, well-recorded bass, but then you throw this on. So as I've stated before, on the bass guitar, when you add the saturation, you're adding the harmonics to the bass, which is then allowing it to cut through the mix and using that it's sort of the same concept that Max Bass uses with their plugin. It's like an aural exciter, and it tricks your ears into thinking you're hearing the lower register when in fact you're not, because you're hearing its fundamental frequency. You're not actually hearing that frequency, you're hearing its fundamental, if that makes any sense. So yes, I did use the Faturator on there. That's by Kilohertz, if you guys want to go and check that out. They have a lot of really cool plugins. They're very easy on the CPU, and honestly, just a group of cool guys too. So now let's cover some of these other questions that we just had about. So Micah says, do you frequency cut off under 20 hertz and over 20 kilohertz? Generally speaking, yes and no. It depends on what it is. Now, I will, right off the bat, on pretty much every mix, I will go ahead and cut 20 hertz off of the low end immediately. I mean, we can't even hear down in those registers, so there's not even any reason for it to be there. And then I will adjust it as I go through the mix on whether it needs to be set higher or lower. But yes, now when it comes to the high end, I generally don't cut the high end unless it's a very high end instrument that has, like, say for instance, cymbals, hi-hats, things like that that have that sizzle in that high end. I'll generally speaking, I will use a low pass filter on those and cut that down a little just to kind of get it to jive well. All right. I'm really interested in your opinion about the routing. I know the VX64 leaving the routing open make me confused. Why something before or after? Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, Max, it's really, yet again, it's personal preference, but so this routing thing allows you to, like, let's say for instance, you wanted to compress your signal before you do your expansion, then you can do that here. Now, in my personal preferences, I want to expand it and the compression expansion is tied together. So, okay, yeah, let's say you wanted to compress before you used the tube equalizer. So it would be essentially compressing before EQing, or maybe you wanted to EQ before compression. So by doing this, I can switch to where now my tube equalizer is running before the compression section, if that makes any sense. Some people like to EQ into a compressor. Some people like to EQ after the compressor. This just gives you that option to do that. And then also, like with the doubler, for instance, you can set that all the way at the beginning of the chain, and then you can actually saturate the double, or you can leave it unsaturated before it hits the saturation, if that makes any sense too. And then the delay, you can leave that at the end of the chain, which is normally where it fits best, or you can put it at the beginning. If you want the delays to be saturated, then you'll put that at the beginning, and whenever you use your tube equalizer or your saturation on the way out, it will actually saturate the delays on the way out. This way, whatever's coming through it, it's going to delay whatever's coming through it. Hope that makes sense. Great questions, guys. Keep it up. Okay, Jurgen wants me to say something about the EQ and the vocals. Right. Yeah, I didn't even cover that. Good thinking. So the EQ on the vocals really wasn't really too much, to be honest. I did a little bit of a high pass slope here, cut out a little bit of the low end. Now this microphone that I used actually allowed me to boost quite a bit of highs without killing it. And a lot of low end microphones, when you go to boost the highs, they sound brittle. It just falls apart. Not this. And then there was like some nasally stuff I cut out here at the 769 hertz region. Not too much, but just enough. But everything is being ran as well through console emulation. I think that's what gives it that overall grit, overall saturation. So when you start saturating the vocals and then it's running into saturation, that's where a lot of the saturation is getting in there. So awesome. Mob the Gamer, you told me to remind you about the reverb and delay buses. Good deal. I think this is going to help some people too. So he actually reached out and asked a question about setting up, because he uses, I believe it was Adobe Audition, and its routing options are a little bit different. And he was wondering how I'm using the reverb buses, how I'm doing all this. So I'm going to bring this up on screen now and hopefully try to make this as clear as possible. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and maximize this first. So here is, within Cakewalk by BandLab, you have in your console view, which is what I'm looking at right now. In your console view, you have two different sections. On the left, over here, this section is your track view. So this is all of the strips. Like if you were sitting in front of a mixing board, these strips are connected to those that are in your tracks. Now at the end of a mixing board, usually on the right side, is your bus and your master bus and your buses. And so that's what these are here on the right side. So it's set up just like a mixing board would be set up. So you also have what's called aux sends, and what you're going to do on a mixing board is you're going to use those sends to send little bits of information to those buses. And so I have buses here set up for, here's one for a short room. These are my reverb buses. Here's a medium plate and a long haul. Here's a delay bus, and here's a saturation bus. Now, all of these buses, they're literally like, it's like it's almost like a guitar pedal in a sense, I guess would kind of be the best way to explain this. Because let's say like this is a reverb pedal. This short room is a reverb pedal. And then what I'm doing is plugging a cable or a send from the vocal into that short room pedal. You see what I'm saying? So you're plugging the reverb with a send into the bus, and then by adjusting the send level, this then allows me to adjust how much goes to the reverb, how much of that dry signal goes to the reverb, and then with the bus itself, I can adjust how much of that reverb is actually hitting the mix, because now the buses are being routed out to the main mix, if that makes any sense. So if you had a, let's see, I probably do it this way. Let's see. So let's say this one here is being bussed to this short room. So I set the send level of that bus to this. So I'm only sending 50% of this signal to this bus right here. So 50% of that is running through this plugin, this reverb plugin that I have on this bus. And then that 50% at unity gain is being sent back to the master now, where it then resides as its finished product. Hope that makes sense. Okay. So this works, it works a lot like what you were explaining. It's just, it works much more like an older console would work. And so that's where like a lot of young people or people that didn't grow up, you know, using big studio equipment, mixing boards and mixing desks, where they kind of get sidetracked with some of this stuff because it's set up so much like the analog days that it's hard for individuals who are newer to sort of grasp these concepts, which is, I totally understand. It took me forever to do it as well. I didn't grow up, you know, in Abbey Road Studios. I grew up in Seymour, Indiana. So, but with that being said, that's exactly how that works. It's super simple once you wrap your head around it. So I hope that helps. Now, if I still need to do a little bit more explaining on that, please let me know. I try to explain it the best way that I can, but essentially, on these, which you can bring them up here too, essentially on these buses, which are located down here, if I bring them up with this little, there's two ways you can look at the console. You can look at it here, or you can bring it up through the console view. But these are literally like, these buses are literally just an effects bus. It's literally almost just like a guitar pedal that's sitting on the floor, waiting for you to plug a piece of audio into it. And then you choose how much audio goes to it. And from there, it is what it is. And it's always helpful too to set whatever effect that you have on there as 100% wet. So that way you're not going to be doubling the signal going in and making things louder. You're just literally the only thing that's coming from this bus is just the reverb. So I hope that makes sense too. All right. Good deal. Awesome questions, guys. If any of this is helping, by the way, go ahead and give this video a like. And if you would also like to set up a Skype session, I do offer those as well. That's free one-on-one consultation. I can go over, we can share screens. I can see what you're working on, help you through a mix, maybe anything like that. So I always have that option too. Okay, vocal chain assumes already pitch corrected. Back to this. Yes, all of these were ran through Melodyne. As you can see, there's Melodyne. Some of it was really pitchy. I'll just be honest with myself. It was very pitchy. And so Melodyne helped save the day. But yes, I melodyne it first and then I put on the effects. That way it makes more sense to me. So Mark says, thanks for that, Rob. Whenever I use the Faturator, it never sounds as good as when you use it. So the thing about the Faturator is it's one of those plugins that can go overboard real quick. You've got to use that mix knob and just barely touch that thing because, man, it can go overboard real quick. So Max says, I'm really interested in your opinion about the routing. I know the VX64, but leaving the routing open make me confused. Why something before or after? Oh, I think I already covered that. Good deal. Jurgen. He says, so now if you really want to confuse people, start talking about patch points. No. Cakewalk by BandLab offers this really cool feature, though, that is called a patch point. So what you're looking at right here on these tracks are aux sends. And these are literally just setting in the track themselves, almost like an effect. But I can right click here and create a send to an aux track, which will then set underneath this track, almost like another audio track, and I can send things to that aux track. Well, then on top of that, I can create a patch point. And a patch point works a lot like a modular synthesizer that you can patch things into other things. Basically, you have infinite routing possibilities. So I literally could patch, say, well, I'll just show you real quick. So I'm going to put a patch point here, and this patch point is going to be let's say I want to send these backing vocals into this patch point. So now the backing vocals and the lead vocals are patched together. Crazy stuff can go on in this place. I don't want to get into that because that will start causing a little bit of confusion. Basically, aux tracks, patch points, and sends all essentially do the same thing. Patch points are a little bit different in the sense that they open up and expand your routing abilities to be able to patch into things you normally couldn't create an aux to, if that makes sense. Okay. Mob the Gamer yet again says, thank you. This was really helpful. Another question. I can't find the CA2A compressor. Where can I find it? Awesome. So there are a ton of free options out there. Basically, you're just looking for a good limiter, brick wall limiter. But if you can't find it in Cakewalk, which it should be in there. Like I said, if you go to, I keep opening up preferences. If you go to your right here, so your Cakewalk plugin manager, that's up here in utilities. It's going to open up the Cakewalk plugin manager, which looks like this. This will display all of the plugins that Cakewalk has scanned for and found. And then down here in this little lower left-hand corner, you can go to show excluded. And whenever you begin to look through your list of available audio effects, you should begin to see those that were excluded by Cakewalk. Once you find that plugin, you'll just simply select it and click on Enable Plugin, and you'll be good to go. Awesome. Max says the patch point can be used as input for a track, and you can record everything coming from the patch point to a stem. This is a lot important if you want to pre-mix a section, saving a lot of CPU. Exactly. Yep, you can do this with aux tracks as well. That's why I think the confusion comes in, because they're almost identical in usage. But yeah, that's exactly a good point for that. All right, guys. Well, thank you all so much for showing up for the premiere. Mom the Gamer says he still can't find it. I'll tell you what, when I hop off of here, I will try and message you personally. I think I might be able to find it. You might have to find it in your installation files, if nothing else. Or let me see if I can't just find a way to download it from the Cakewalk website, which I doubt. Yeah, I doubt it. That stinks. You should be able to find it though in that list. If it's still not in there, in that newest update that they just released, they might have officially taken that out of there completely, because I know some people were saying they were having problems with it. It was acting a little glitchy. You can't freeze an aux. Right. So, yes, that is correct, Jurgen. Yeah, it's getting ready to be. So, for those of you who can't find the CA2A, and if it's not in that excluded plugins list and you still haven't found it through there, my apologies. It might have been something that they've went in and permanently got rid of that. So, awesome. Well, thanks guys for showing up for the premiere of the song. I appreciate all of your love. I would ask you to go ahead and share the song with anyone that you can, and get them plays up there. Also, if you're interested in being a part of that mix contest, make sure that you have subscribed to the channel. Make sure that you've rang the bell, and that way whenever I post that video, or I post it, sometimes I just post it in the community tab, and you have to have your notifications on to know that I've done that. Whenever I post things in there, then you'll be the first to know about that. So before we go though, there is a something that we have to do, that we always have to do. And I think for those of you who are regulars to the show, you know what's coming. There's been a few times where I've actually forgot to do this. And then I've had people going, "Hey man, you forgot to," and some of you that are in the chat now are going, "What's he talking about? You forgot to what?" I'm pulling it up right now, so you know what time it is. Hey Thomas, good to have you, buddy. We're just wrapping up the stream right now and getting ready to do something that we always do. Oh yeah, Mob the Gamers all over it. It's time to spin the wheel of awesomeness. Bring it on, Casey. Ladies and gentlemen, the wheel of awesomeness is here today. We're going to spin the wheel, and whatever the wheel lands on will dictate what we do. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the wheel. All right. And it looks like it landed on tutorial video request. Good deal. In the chat or in the comment section of this video, go ahead and give me a quick, what tutorial would you like to see next on the channel? You can either write that here in the live chat, or you can put that in the comment section of the video. If you put it in the comment section just underneath this video, I'll actually be able to see that easier, to be perfectly honest. So you can put it in the chat, or you can put it in the comment section just under the video. I would prefer that you would put it in the comment section though. Then let's also give a quick shout out to these individuals: Dakota Black, Michael Stomane, Eugene, Richard, Bloodmush 123, Roosman. I'm probably saying these all wrong. The Beard of Nova. I love that. Bansuri Brother, and Andrew Quinn. Thank you guys. These are recent subscribers to the channel. Much appreciated. Much appreciated indeed. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for sharing in this journey with me for the song release. Very proud of it. Very proud of you guys as well for all of the wonderful songs that I've already got for the submissions for the February Song Contest. If you want to get involved in the February Song Contest, I'm going to go ahead and leave that open one more day, as the video for the Listen Together has been extended a little bit. So if you want to still get in on the song contest, I'm going to leave that in the chat right now so that you can go and check that out. All right. Awesome. Jurgen says he looks forward to the mix contest. We got Mark George says he wants a mid-range EQ tutorial, a routing tutorial, vocal EQ and compression tutorial. Good deal. arrange blocks of MIDI and audio. Awesome. Great ideas, guys. Great ideas. Hey, I'll tell you what, too. After this video is over, if you have any more ideas, go ahead and leave those in the comment section. Also, take the ideas that you've put here in the chat if you can. I'm not going to ask you to do it twice if you don't want to, but if you could go ahead and leave those in the comment section of the video as well. That way I'll be able to see those a lot easier. Well, guys, this has been real. It's been fun. It's always a good time hopping on here with you all. Now, next week, we're going to be going over the song submissions for the February Song Contest. I'm excited. There's a lot of great submissions in there. Remember, whoever wins that song contest is going to get a free mix and master from yours truly, and then we will all listen to them together, and I'll pick a winner, and we'll have fun with that. Then we're going to move on to the March contest. So get songs ready and get your, both barrels loaded and get ready for the March song contest that will be coming up, and very soon now. It's approaching. So until next time, guys, remember, this channel exists to simplify the complexities of the home studio and to help you make professional sounding music in a less than professional space. We can dream alone and we can even create alone, but together we can achieve so much more. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I love each and every one of you, and I mean that. Stay blessed.